Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist and the magical mystery tour called Life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is author Jason Daniel Baker. Jason lives in Toronto and was, from 2009 to 2019, a contributing writer for Uber Rock magazine, where he interviewed musicians and reviewed concerts and recordings. He also, for a time, was a special events volunteer for the Canadian Centre for Victims of Torture. In 2017, Jason published his first book, a novel titled The Esperanza Compromise. Tonight, we will be discussing Jason's literary career. Jason, welcome to the show. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here. I'd like to start off by asking you, what led you to write your novel, The Esperanza Compromise?
Well, that's quite good. Your pronunciation there is quite good, first of all, Matthew. The changes in right-wing politics in the United States fascinated me and shaped an idea I already had. I suddenly knew what to do with it when the Trump presidency, the first one, started. And out of that came this dark political thriller that I wrote and published 8 years ago.
Okay. Now, how long did it take you to write the book, Jason?
Well, as I said, the seed of the idea was already there. This was in 2009, and I suddenly knew what to do with it in 2017. So it's an incubation process which lasted 8 years, and it was 8 years ago today published. So.
Wow. Okay. Now, was it conventionally published or is it self-published, Jason?
It is self-published on Amazon, which anyone can do. I would encourage anyone who wants to be self-published to look into that, or Barnes & Noble, which are platforms which self-publish authors.
Yeah, I've used that myself, Jason, for my last 3 sports books. It's fantastic.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. Now, Jason, please tell our listeners, what is the novel about? Can you go over the plot? I mean, what are we seeing when we read this book?
Well, the Esperanza Compromise is an exploration of alt-right journalism in America. I tell it through the arc of Chad Busby, a Canadian reporter who works for an American magazine that is a platform for the far right, and specifically the Make America Great Again movement. Chad himself identifies as a conservative, but he's more center-right. Nevertheless, he has carved out a niche within the milieu by articulating the beliefs of the far right better than most who actually believe in it. In so doing, he has stepped far beyond the outer limits of what he himself believes morally and politically. He's gone past the state of self-loathing, and he's come to be amused by the absurdity of it all. Now, initially, his reward is not wealth, it is mere subsistence. But after he writes a particularly gushing piece glamorizing the first Trump presidency, he is given a coveted assignment. He is sent to Mexico to research and write about a particularly brutal and ruthless criminal organization called the Esperanza Cartel. He determines that he is meant to write this article in such a way as to alarm people about the dangers of a lax border. While he is on this assignment, he finds very little that is true about the cartel, but he does find about the people he works for and more fully about how he's been used by them.
So, is it accurate to say that the novel is about the temptations of power? I mean, trying the accessing of power in that sense? Is that an accurate analysis?
It might be looked upon in that way by the end of the book, but in the book itself, it's more subsistence than anything else. This is what this person gets as a writer for this journal. Because, let's face it, journalism is not a profession that pays very well. So this is a man who's able to subsist within this environment. But the temptations of power do come into it later.
Okay. Who are some other key characters in the Esperanza Compromise, besides Mr. Busby?
Well, Jane Finch is his best friend, and it's one of these office crushes kind of things. It's one of these things where they're never going to consummate a kind of a romance with each other, but it's a thing where they befriend each other, and she is an anti-feminist. So this is what her milieu is within right-wing culture. She's also a gun fanatic and a former beauty queen. So these are things that shape her experience as a character and the narrative itself. Yeah. And his friendship with her tells a bit of that story.
Sounds like the perfect Fox News hostess.
Yes, you might say. Yeah, very, very much. Yes, that's what I was going for.
Do you kind of explore that in the novel? Go in like the Fox News thing, the right wing TV bit. Do you go into that or no?
Oh, I most assuredly do. Okay. I make sure that this is something that these reporters actually have to do this to promote their work. So they have to go on these right-wing channels and promote this stuff. And this is something that's very much dealt with in the book. And not only does it help them promote what they're writing, it helps them promote their speaking tours, which is where they get some of their money.
Ooh, okay. Are there any autobiographical elements in the novel, Jason?
I would say that the main character is a reflection of me. I am a failed progressive conservative candidate in Canada, and so is Chad. And I was a journalist for a number of years. We'll get to that, I think. So there's part of that's there. And I'm also someone who's more center-right, and I've had to deal with being around people who are more extreme.
Okay. I'm kind of curious, Jason. Did you run for Parliament, or was it more like provincial government? I mean, when you campaigned. I mean, I'm kind of curious. Is it all right if I ask you about that?
It's fine. Yes, it's absolutely fine. I ran for city council first, and then I ran for federal parliament in 2000.
Ooh, okay. All right. Jason, if the book was ever made into a movie, what actors and actresses would play in it? If let's say that Hollywood came knocking on your door and they wanted to make a movie out of it, what have you ever thought about that? What actors or actresses would play in the movie, the characters?
Well, yes, I've had a number of interesting offers from people who claim to be from Hollywood, in saying that they're interested in making this into a movie. I'm not sure how sincere these are, or whether or not what's going to happen with that, but I wouldn't mind someone Canadian playing a Canadian. This is an American character, the Canadian who's moved to America and become essentially American without ever taking citizenship. So I would like a Canadian to play a Canadian, but I'm not really necessarily so attached to it that it would have to be. But I would pick one of the Ryans, Ryan Reynolds or Ryan Gosling, both Canadians. Okay. And I think that those would be good characters. There's also a love interest which comes at the end of the novel. Her name is Bobby Marrero. She's a photographer who works with Chad, and I wouldn't mind seeing Ava Mendez play her. I think that would be a good choice to play her. And since she's married to Ryan Gosling, that might be a happy coupling on screen.
And who would play the anti-feminist colleague, friend colleague?
Well, that's a good question. I've always liked Holly Hunter. I've always thought she was a very good actress, but she would be considerably older than the character that she'd be playing. Okay. So I haven't really worked that out yet. I think Rosamund Pike might be exceptional in the role. Okay, Jason. Let's talk about yourself now. Where were you born and raised? Well, I was born in Smiths Falls, Ontario, Canada. Population 10,000. This is about an hour southwest of Ottawa, and it's about a little more than an hour, let's say, from Kingston, which is where we have all of our penitentiaries, or most of our penitentiaries in Canada.
Oh my!
So it's in between our nation's capital and our federal prisons. So this is a very interesting place to go. Its main industry is weed. We converted from chocolate to marijuana at some point, and so that's where I was born. But I was raised more in Calgary for about 6 years, and then I moved to Toronto in 1984, and I've been here ever since.
So where did you go to school predominantly? In what town would you go to school?
In Toronto, I went to school. I attended North Toronto Collegiate, and then I attended University of Toronto.
Okay.
Studying political science.
Ooh, okay. Jason, are you a proud citizen of Leafs Nation?
I might be laughing a little too hard at that one. I know the organization a little too well to be much of a fan of that. I am, in fact, a fan of the Montreal Canadiens, who are the hated rivals of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, wow.
And I get, it's a source of tension wherever I go in the city. But let's just say I wouldn't mind it if a Canadian team ever won the Stanley Cup again, no matter which one it is.
Yeah, so you're rooting for Edmonton, because the Cup's coming up, I think, was it tomorrow or Thursday night? You rooting for Edmonton?
You bet.
Yeah, me too. It's long overdue. I mean, I like to put this thing to bed too. You know what I mean? Besides, Florida already got their cup, man. So give it to Edmonton, man. Give it to them.
Please do.
Who's your favorite hockey player?
Oh, well, that's a very good question. I would have to say Guy Lafleur.
Ooh, okay.
He's been back in the 70s, and that's when I first started watching, 70s and 80s. So, that remains a consistent. Also, Ken Dryden, who's also an author. He was a goaltender for the Canadians, and he won 6 Stanley Cups in 8 years. So he's another idol of mine who played hockey.
Yeah. Mine was Bernie Perrant, the Flyers, 74, 75. He was my man.
I know him well. Toronto actually kicked him out of town.
Yeah.
I think that's how he got to Philadelphia.
Yeah. Jason, what led you to get involved in rock journalism?
Oh, well, women, specifically female musicians who invited me to their shows and made me feel welcome in every way.
Oh, my.
And I'm also an old school headbanger. I really am. I've been rocking out to Led Zeppelin since I was 14. So this is a thing where after my political fortunes had, let's say, deteriorated for a while there, I indulged my wild side and I became active in helping my friends.
Okay.
So there became this opportunity to write about a female companion of mine who was a musician, and I took it in order to help her. And as that relationship disintegrated, I made other friends, and one of them was a musician named Frankie White, and she introduced me to a publisher in Wales. So I became their man in Canada, as it were, their foreign correspondent.
Okay. Can you did you ever get to rub shoulders with any major rock stars? Any names that you can throw at me? Name drop with me. Can you do that?
Well, I'm happy to drop one name, and that's the name of my former landlord, Stephen Kudlow. Stephen Kudlow is better known as Lips. He's the frontman of a heavy metal band called Anvil, which is influential, but let's say not as famous as some of the other classic heavy metal bands. So this guy was my landlord for a year and a half. So I did actually do that before I ever wrote a single article about bands. So one of the first articles I ever wrote for the magazine in Wales was about this band of this musician who had taken such good care of me as my landlord. So that's something I'm happy to drop as a name. But there's other bands I've written about, not they're locally famous. They're not internationally famous. Baja Lijack was a friend of mine. Scarlet Sins was a band I wrote about. Diamonds was a band I wrote about. Diamonds was affiliated with Kiss. So this is something where the front woman for that band was in a band called Succubus with which was run by Kiss.
Okay.
So this is essentially, and Scarlet Sins opened for Motley Crue. So Scarlet Sins are an all-female heavy metal band. They opened for Motley Crue quite famously.
Okay. What during your years as a rock journalist, what was probably the most amazing story you ever had that you can share with the audience here?
Sadly, not a happy one. A number of the people I've worked with have died. So 2 members of Diamonds, the entire rhythm section, in fact, of Diamonds, guys I remember rocking out to. I remember seeing them get into the music as much as the lead singer and the guitarist. The drummer and the bassist both died of overdoses.
Oh, jeez.
And then, a friend of mine named Andre Sin, who was leader of a band called Psycho Mad Sally, he perished from cancer about a year ago.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, man. Yeah. Jason, please tell our audience about your past volunteer work for the Canadian Center for Victims of Torture.
Well, that was something I did as a thing of conscience. And like I said, it was during the time after my political fortunes had turned downward, and I felt a little disillusioned about the conservative movement in Canada. So I took up some of the causes which defined me. Part of it was rocking out to bands and indulging that, but it was also my human rights activism, and specifically my opposition to the death penalty. So this is something where I volunteered as a English language facilitator for an English language circle to help these people assimilate to the culture and get them to learn our language. I also helped try and get them out to our museums and our various sites in the city to get them to see part of it and get them to feel part of the community and feel get past what they had suffered in their home countries. Because many of these people Canada is not known for let's say torture, but a lot of these places are in the Middle East or foreign countries or and different former countries of the Eastern Bloc where these people were actually tortured. So it's one of the things I did to work with these people, and I worked with their newsletter committee to get out to the volunteers, and I wrote a number of articles on human rights for that publication.
Okay. Jason, whenever I interview an author on my show, I always love to ask the standard question. Who were your favorite authors when you were growing up? And of those favorite authors, did any of them light the spark inside you to become a writer or perhaps influence your writing style?
Most assuredly so. And one man that stands out as a literary giant to me is Sinclair Lewis. Sinclair Lewis is most well known for writing the novel Elmer Gantry about a religious fanatic hypocrite. But he's also known for writing a novel called It Can't Happen Here, which is about how a fascist movement comes to power in the United States. And this is something that is not as well known as it should be. This is a novel about political extremism, and this is something that he's been quoted as saying, if fascism ever comes to America, it will be wrapped in a flag and hung on a cross. So this is something that he's been quoted as saying, but no one's ever proven he said. It sounds like something he might have said. So as a political commentator, and specifically one who dislikes, let's say, right-wing extremism, but is more in line with mainstream conservatism, this is somebody who is a literary icon to me.
Yeah, okay. Now, Jason, again, please tell our listeners, where can readers find your books, and do you have a web link that you can share with our audience?
Well, I have a YouTube channel called The Esperanza Compromise by Jason Daniel Baker. You can find that with any Google search. But I also have on The Esperanza Compromise, if you put that in quotes, it'll bring up the Amazon page where you can buy it. You can have a look at it on the inside. It's one of the things Amazon does is they give you a peek at it, so you whether you decide you want to buy it or not. So it's been out there for 8 years, and anyone can find it that way.
Okay. Jason, what will be your next book project, and when can we expect its release?
Well, that's a good question. The next book project that I have in line is called Alter Egos. And Alter Egos is a book about a French crime family, which is also a religious cult. And since the French Revolution, they've been in operation. Over the course of 2 centuries, they have become part of the 1%. That is how successful they've been in spreading their diabolical cult views as well as their crime. So this is a family that's the arc of that. That's a thriller, which is also a crime thriller. And this is something I'm still looking for a publisher for. It might be Barnes & Noble. It might be Amazon again. But I am consulting literary agents.
Okay. Jason, let me know when it comes out. I want you on my show again. I'd love to promote it, okay?
Oh, that'd be terrific, Matthew. I'd really like that.
Jason, I want to thank you so much for appearing on the show, and I wish you the best of luck on your future endeavors, okay?
Thanks so much, Matthew.
You take care, okay?
Good night. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for my next show where I'll be interviewing author Judy Dobson. Thank you and good night.